There is an ancient land in Africa where once the Queen of Sheba reigned, and where many people look and live today, much as their forebears did in biblical times. Here the mighty waters of the Blue Nile have their source, and here, as this great land embarks upon a course of modern nation building, an organization skilled in nation building work with youth is on the job. The emergence of Africa as a power on the world scene is one of the major events of our lifetime. Just a third of a century ago, Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Ethiopia, stood before the League of Nations and pleaded for justice. He was substantially ignored. Today, over one-third of the members of the United Nations are African states, and they participate daily in decision-making that affects the lives of all of us. Africa today is a juggernaut, driving irresistibly toward the development of individual states and the unification of a great continent. One of the major catalysts in this modern renaissance is Ethiopia, a country old in history even before the birth of Christ. In Ethiopia, from personal observation and experience, I know that the services of the Y are welcomed, needed, and of basic importance to the future development of a people. In Ethiopia, as in most of Africa, the keynote is change. The old fast giving way to new, as this old church is now replaced by the modern one behind it. Many still live in villages like this, but towns are on the rise. The city marketplaces are expanding, and there is an explosion of growth in the major urban centers, like Addis Ababa, the capital. In this metropolis of 500,000 people, the signs of progress are evident in buildings: the palace of His Majesty, the Emperor, the municipal building, or City Hall, and the famous Africa Hall, site of historic meetings to plan African unity and home of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and the Addis Ababa YMCA. Here the letters are carved in the Amharic language, but there is the same symbolic triangle known and active in 83 countries around the world. In the early mornings, the city's poorest children, the Y calls them future citizens, come to school and start the day with an ancient prayer. And Ethiopia's national song of the flag, a paean to liberty and a pledge to serve their country as heroes. period of silent meditation follows. Which comes in handy sometimes for last-minute homework. They sing a favorite song known to every school child in Ethiopia, a salute to their country, people, and emperor. You have made Ethiopia like honey and milk. Despite an all-out effort by the government to build schools, the number of public schools in Ethiopia falls far short of the need. Competition for admittance is keen, and many must be left out. These are among the poorest, most disadvantaged kids in Addis Ababa. And except for the Y, they could grow up without any sort of formal education. Many hundreds are enrolled in the Y's Future Citizen program throughout the country. The students take their first grades of school at the Y, which prepares them for later admittance to the public schools. Besides providing a formal education, the Y equips the kids to earn a living by teaching many kinds of trades. The girls, too, learn wage-earning skills. And they have the time of their lives in the Y's playground. Marvin Ludwig, Senior World Service Fraternal Secretary in Ethiopia, likes to work out with the boys in their gym periods. Ludwig has helped build a physical education program at the Y that ranks among the best in the country. He introduced volleyball into Ethiopia and has developed championship teams both in this sport and basketball. Both sports, of course, are inventions of the Y. Boxing is another favorite. For athletes of all ages, sizes, and degrees of expertise. Boys and young men on the streets are a major problem in all big cities, and the YMCA urban action programs of boys' clubs and service projects provide a constructive outlet for their energies. These are some of the leaders of over 75 youth clubs in Ethiopian YMCAs. World Service began assisting the YMCA of Ethiopia in 1951. Today, its top staff is entirely indigenous. Desta Girma, a product of World Service Fellowship training in North America, is National General Secretary, heading a team of 21 professionals and over 500 volunteer leaders in 14 cities throughout the land. Marvin Ludwig, chief developer of the Ethiopian Y for the last 13 years, and now near the end of his period of service there, concentrates on training. Usually, too, there is a recent college graduate from North America, like Norris Lineweaver, who serves 2 or 3 years in Ethiopia as a World Service worker. The Addis Ababa Y is a haven for many who find things there that are hard to find elsewhere. Dormitory rooms for students living away from home. A restaurant, clean, sanitary, and inexpensive. A library. And game rooms for the children. A gymnasium and classes that build healthy bodies, self-confidence, and poise. Even when life turns out to be something of a letdown. In the drive for nation building in Ethiopia, education takes top priority in all government planning. Illiteracy is still over 80%. A huge shed on the Y's grounds is a night school where over 500 adults are learning to read and write as well as history, mathematics, sometimes English, and health and hygiene. Something new for the country is camping, another Y first for Ethiopia. Norris Lineweaver and Boys Secretary Seem Habti trained boys in a nearby field in preparation for their first camping experience away from home later in the year. The Y has recently acquired a beautiful campsite on Lake Langano, 100 miles away, and hundreds of kids will soon be off the streets and off to camp for the first time in their lives. The market area in Addis Ababa, site of the largest market in Africa, and site, too, of the Market YMCA. You don't see too many kids running around on the market area streets these days because some 700 a day are turning up at this Y, the only recreation place open to them in the entire area. Both the outside and inside are always jammed. Besides the kids, their mothers and fathers turn up at the Y too, at night, for adult education, a major program here and at YMCAs throughout the nation. A few miles away, in one of the most congested areas of the city, is the Foundation Branch, so named because it was set up with help from the Haile Selassie Foundation. There are no other recreational facilities in the neighborhood. Elsewhere in the city, at the University of Addis Ababa, a student YMCA has been chartered. Like students everywhere, Ethiopian students are impatient with the old ways of life and are eager for change. They see in the Y an effective and democratic channel for helping their country move into the modern era. Back in 1951, this man arrived in the country and helped to turn the young, struggling Ethiopian YMCA into one of the most dynamic associations in the world. He was Merlin Bishop, first fraternal secretary from North America, a scientific genius who, among other things, built the first telescope in the country and opened up a whole new world for many of Ethiopia's youth. The old rented YMCA building looked like this. The new building was financed entirely without World Service help from North America, although our recent Buildings for Brotherhood campaign helped add a new dormitory wing. Today, the Addis Ababa Y holds a basic place in the mainstream of Ethiopian life. A big event for the Y is an official visit from His Majesty the Emperor, accompanied as usual by his little brown dog. The Emperor is the Y's patron and probably its most enthusiastic supporter. The Y was started at his personal request, and he has donated land, officiated at cornerstone layings, and attended inaugural ceremonies of new Y buildings down through the years. Last year, the YMCA won the coveted Haile Selassie First Prize Trust Award for humanitarian activities, the first voluntary agency in the country to be so honored.
YMCA
On this occasion, the Emperor says, "At my request, the Y started in Ethiopia, and I am happy. Since its establishment, the Y has achieved much, and I am more pleased in giving assistance to the Y than merely visiting it." Referring to the Humanitarian Activities Award, the Emperor says, "It is right for the Y to be so honored. The award is given to those who help themselves and who consider helping others to be their duty as God has so commanded." On a previous occasion, the Emperor urged the Y to extend its vital services to youth into all the cities and villages of the land. Towards this objective of the Emperor's, the Y in recent years has begun to make spectacular progress. A day's trip to the north through some of the most spectacular scenery in Africa finds the Bar Dar Y in operation, a gathering place for almost all the young people of the city. Sometimes there are frustrations. The facilities and equipment are in constant use, and emergency repairs are part of almost every game. When the breaks get too numerous, the boys try to overcome the trouble by using their heads. There's never enough equipment for all to get into the games, whether it's outside or inside the building. At the Bar Dar Y, there are many pretty girls, and their very pretty clothes they are learning to make themselves. These two professional secretaries were youth members of the Y once themselves. Many of these boys hope to follow their example. Into all the land, according to the Emperor's invitation. Further to the north lies Asmara, capital of Eritrea, where the Y a few years ago looked like this. Today, its new modern building has a membership of nearly 1,000 and reaches over 120,000 people in its programs every year. They come for films, a rare treat for many disadvantaged youngsters who seldom get to see movies elsewhere. Helping to run the show is Owen Manchester, the other North American World Service Fraternal Secretary in Ethiopia. Developing leaders is the chief objective here, in youth clubs that provide training in the techniques of democracy, and in opportunities for helping others through service projects. Here, a student volunteer conducts a literacy class for the building's maintenance workers. The Arts Club is unique and is developing some first-rate talent. And in the gallery of great men's portraits, a place is reserved for World Service Fraternal Secretary, Manchester. To the members of the Boys Department of the Y, his place is with them too. Into all the land, the Y keeps moving into city after city as quickly as resources and manpower permit. In Deborah Berhan, the Y opened as a student center and now is a full-scale Y. Education in many fields is the dominant theme here, and as in all of Ethiopia's YMCAs, volunteer leaders are the backbone of its program. In this country of the Coptic Christian faith, where the royal lineage traces back directly to Solomon, Bible study is a fascinating adventure into history as well as spiritual training. The Y's steady thrust into all the land takes it now into Gondar province, where the government has placed a fine piece of property and a house at the Y's disposal. The kids stage an impromptu parade when Marvin Ludwig pays a visit to inspect the new facility. And the governor of the province himself comes over to join the celebration. This is not surprising, for the governor is Lieutenant Colonel Tamrat, the Y's top man here, the national president of the Ethiopian YMCA, recently appointed to the governorship of Gondar. And another Y is launched. The Emperor speaks. The YMCA reaches out and helps our people here in different ways, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I am pleased with what we see of the Y and want to thank all those people and organizations who have given assistance to it. May God bless the association's work. Haile Selassie, the famed conquering line of Judah, leader of a people 22 million strong and of a nation destined by history to play a leading role in molding the Africa of the future. His country, like most of the continent it shares, is making an immense effort to overcome the tribal conservatisms of the past and to build a modern, viable democratic state. The opportunities and need for expanded Y work here at this crucial point in Ethiopia's history are limitless. The Y's programs are relevant to the times and a catalyst for change. In less than 20 years, the Y in Ethiopia has grown to 18 centers in 14 cities and is active in every province of the country. The chief role of our World Service leaders today, here and in all 39 countries in North America's World Service program, is the development of indigenous leaders, like Desta Girma and his staff. In Ethiopia, the professional staff and the superb corps of volunteer leaders who outnumber them by 25 to 1 rank in ability, dedication, and effectiveness with the best of the YMCA world. In Ethiopia, YMCA leadership comes from all segments of the population. For like YMCAs everywhere, the Y in Ethiopia is the people themselves, tackling their needs together, from urban crises not unlike those in North America to the more personal needs of individuals discovering their own potential for growth. One outstanding leader of the Y is Ambassador Makonnen, the permanent representative to the United Nations from Ethiopia and Vice President of the World Alliance of YMCAs. Ambassador Makonnen expresses, I think, the place of honor the Y holds in the hearts of his people and the aspirations they have for its further extension into all of their land.
The YMCA has become an indispensable movement in the international life of our time, and indeed in the life of many nations on all continents. At a time when science and technology have given greater emphasis to the material things of life as opposed to the spiritual, and when there is such a dangerous gap between the new and old generations, the YMCA strives to build bridges between generations by providing opportunities for the development of the personality and the potential of youth. This is why every Ethiopian, from His Imperial Majesty downwards, is responding to the YMCA and to the opportunities it provides for building a better future for our nation. Those of us who have been associated with the YMCA movement feel confident that the role of the YMCA will grow and prosper for the benefit of our nation and of all mankind.